Hey everybody, it's me, Jonathan Millard, the voice of the Vale, and welcome to the Big Hype podcast, brought to you exclusively by Hype Energy Drinks. Get your energy there and protect yourself at all time by wearing Bravos boxing gloves. And please, of course, support our charity of choice, Boxers in Need. Just £12 a month will all go towards Boxers in Need. But my very special guest tonight, joining me from their home all the way to yours and into your ears, is Arnie Dawson, the Terminator.
That's the one, mate. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on in your time.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. And like I said, when you came on, it's been a bit ships in the night kind of thing. You've done shows that I should have emceed or would have emceed and vice versa. You know, it's just been like ships passing the night. But we'll ask you the same question I've asked everyone who's come on the podcast, which is this one, which is how and why did you get involved in boxing?
So, I sort of had two avenues into boxing, really. My cousins boxed on my dad's side of the family, and then I'd done a little bit of boxing training when I was about 9 with my uncle. Is the connection all right?
Yeah,
I'd done a little bit of boxing training with my uncle when I was about 9, and then he took me down to the boxing gym, and it happened to be the same boxing gym that my cousins were at from the other side of the family anyway. So then got into it, and then that was sort of the only real involvement my uncle had. And then I stayed in it with like my cousins from the other side. And then, just we boxed, and then they all like sort of through the years sort of dropped off one by one, and I just kept at it the whole time. And yeah, I'm here now.
When you say they dropped off, I mean, this was through what, an amateur background you started off with?
Yeah. So I went down to the local amateur club, Holland Shore ABC. It was founded and ran by Graham Moulton. So he's a former GB fella, boxed for the Repton, boxed for England, Denmark, Bermuda, and he was like my mentor for the first like years and years of my boxing career at the local amateur club, really. We all boxed at the local amateur club, and then I ended up staying with the same amateur club. And when Graham took a step back about 5 years ago now, the person who took over, the trainer who took over from him in the amateur club is my professional trainer now. So I've stayed with the same amateur club and same amateur setup all the way through now, and I coach there now myself. So yeah, I've been with the same people from the start.
Oh, brilliant! So how does it feel to be involved in that side of it, as well as the pro game, the amateur, your coaching and training?
Yeah, and I enjoy it. Like I said, I've been at the same club and for the whole time, so I've seen the club. I started at the club only 2 or 3 years after it was started in the first place. So I've sort of been at the club since almost the start, and then now one of the coaches there. So yeah, I enjoy it, mate. I enjoy it, and it's good stuff.
Any prospects coming through that you're keeping an eye on because they're going to be perhaps challenging you in a few years' time?
Yeah, we've got a few decent, a few good kids. I don't want to name them because then
no, that's fair enough, mate.
I'll have to reel them all off, otherwise it will look like I've got favourites. But we've got a few little. We're not a massive club because we're not from a big area in Clacton. Like there's not loads and loads of kids about, but we've got some. Had some people get to like decent stages of national tournaments recently. So yeah, Holland Shore it is. Yeah,
that's really good, mate. You get them at that level. Yeah, to get them at the championship level, that's it's a testimony to the staff team there as well. Because it's difficult to get into those and up those things.
Yeah, especially when you're not from like a big area or a big place in London that has loads and loads of kids coming through the door.
Yeah, I know that because being in Wales, there's only 3.3 million people, and we've got hundreds of clubs across South Wales alone, so we do quite well there as well. So going back to your amateur career, what was your amateur career like then? Was it a bit of the same sort of thing that you're getting these kids to do now? So, you sort of up to the championships?
So yeah, I was always in and around a good level, but never like cracked it at the top. I didn't win any national titles. I never boxed for my country, but I was in like national quarters and semis. Like I got to a national semis, but then I was in like quarters most years I entered, and was getting through like the Eastern Counties rounds, which is our like local round and stuff. So, and then I ended up after COVID, I had about 12 to 15 senior fights, and Yes, and then I've topped off with, I think my last fight was my 50th on our home show, and then I turned over after 50.
50 bouts, not 50 and 0 though. You were a bit of a
No,
mixed
no,
bag, I guess.
yeah, I was a very because when I started, I wasn't a great kid from the off. Do you know what I mean? So I was always like a 50-50 sort of record kid, and then that sort of turned around in the late years as I got a bit older and a bit better, and then obviously, like I say, topped off with a decent couple of senior seasons, and then turning over pro.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to be as well, and because you've learned the craft, as they say, on the job kind of thing, and obviously opportunities have come your way then after that as well. So that's a good thing. When you turned over pro, what was the reason for the change? Why did you decide, 50 fights, that's enough? I'm going over to the pro ranks now.
Well, I always wanted to be a pro boxer, and I always thought my style suited it. And I know a lot of people say that, and sometimes that can be like a little bit of a cop out for not being a great amateur. But I always thought that my style suited it. I was a good shot picker, and I was always falling short to the kids that would throw 100 shots around and throw loads and loads of shots, whilst I'm trying to look for my good shots and my good boxing. And although he never boxed pro himself, my trainer Graham was like a real my old trainer Graham was like a real teacher of the sport, and trained Nigel Benn for a little bit when he was a pro, and like was a real teacher of the sport. So I knew how to box from the off. And then when I started working with my trainer, who's still my trainer now, Gareth Bayford, he's from Canning Town, like East London, and has links with the Peacock. So we went down there when I first turned senior, and just started sparring down there. And obviously, I always had in my mind that I wanted to go on and be a pro. And then when I was sparring down there, I was always sparring with the pros and then mixing it in. And like I say, that link come from Gareth, and then Gareth said to Martin Bowers, who's now my manager, like, if we wanted to turn over one day, would you be interested in managing Arnie? And then he was like, yeah, we'll give it a little bit of time. And then I think I had another year as a senior, getting some fights in as a senior, and constantly down there sparring, picking up, like, learning the sort of pro craft as well as just the amateur game. And then when the time was right, we sat down with Martin and said, we want to turn over, and he was all for it. So that's coming up to 2 years ago now. So
I was going to say, you've not been in the pro ranks that long, but you've made some noise already. And according to BoxRec, I think you're about the only person that's had 2 pro debuts.
Yeah,
I don't quite know how that's happened. But
what it was is one of them was scheduled in. The second one against Ricky Leach, that was scheduled in first before I had the first one. So then that was on my BoxRec as pro debut for Arnie Dawson. And when I got the first fight, that was actually Carl Sampson. That was then my debut, and the other one was already had pro debut on it. So on BoxRec it says they were both my pro debut.
I was going to say, it's the first I've ever seen Arnie, but I'm sure there's plenty of others out there. But for you, it's a kudos, isn't it? That is a story to tell people. Well, actually, I have 2 pro debuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. So you started off Carl Sampson with a 4-rounder, going the distance, winning every round quite convincingly from what I remember watching. And then we went into your other one with Ricky Leach. That one, you stopped him in the second.
Yeah.
You put him down in the first, though. Yeah,
right at the end of the first, I was quite, like, not gutted, obviously, but I caught him with a really good shot and put him over. But the bell went as he was on the floor, so all he had to do was get up. I didn't have that, like, time to sort of jump on him, but it was good. And then I got the stoppage in the second round, early on in the second round. So it was very good.
And Ricky's an experienced journeyman. When it comes to that sort of thing, he knows the game. He was probably looking at, he's probably about 80 fights in, 70 fights in.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And I know he's gone on to have an awful lot more since then as well. So you're up against an experienced person to put on the floor and defend the first, like you said. And
Big Hype Podcast, sponsored by Hype Energy Drinks.
Yeah, and when I so like I said, I had the fight with Carl Sampson first, and I think he's a lot better than people would give like a journeyman credit for in terms of like boxing ability. He's a very tricky fella, and when I see bits and bobs of him, like I thought, he's decent. And then when I also then watched a couple of clips of Ricky Leach, he's a decent fighter, and he like has boxed a lot of good prospects, and they've all got that, like that. Loads of them have gone the distance. I think he's only been stopped like less than 10 times. I think I think it's something nearing like 80 to 90 fights now.
Yeah,
but because I don't go looking for it, I think that's what helped me, because like I say, it's a really experienced fella to be boxing and then eventually putting over. But because I didn't expect it, I didn't go looking for it, and then I think that's when it was like, that's when it came. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, it's like you say, you weren't looking for it. It comes. It's the same as buses. If you don't look for them, two of them turn around and come at the same time. So yeah. You wait long enough. But you moved to again. This was the York Hall as well. This was TM show. Was this a TM show or was it?
Yeah. So the Carl Sampson one was a Queensbury dinner show for a charity.
Yes.
So for the Deborah charity, even though I didn't have 2 debuts, I didn't sell any tickets for that one. So it was all like suited and booted. So then the Ricky Leach one was on a TM14 show where I'd sold all my tickets. So it was like having my second debut, because that was where all of my people got to come and see me. Like there was no one actually at my first one from my support. And then the second one at Ricky Leach, TM14 show was, mate. Yeah.
And that was a loud crowd shouting and bawling at you from over the balcony at the York Hall. I can imagine as well, because I know that venue well.
Yeah, very.
You know it well as well, because you've been there 3 times already so far in your career.
Iconic, isn't it?
Iconic, historic. Is it the home of British boxing? I think it could be nowadays. Is it a bit of a sweatbox at the wrong time of year? Yes, it is. If it's ice box at the wrong time of year, yes, it is. But we love it, so we never argue with it. You came up against Lee Hallett again, another great journeyman in this first couple of fights that you had in the thing, and then we had the opportunity to jump on a Fight Zone, international. So talk to us about that. How did that opportunity come about?
So I was just in the gym, and like I said, I boxed Lee Hallett, and then I was just back in the gym training. I think it was around May time, and the only reason I remember it is because when spoke about that, I was offered a fight in June as well, so I knew it was like a month. I was just in the gym as normal. After I boxed Lee Hallett, I'd spoke to Martin a couple of times. I'd been back down the Peacock sparring, because I train out of our gym in Clacton. It's called Seconds Out Gym, so I trained there. So I'm there like daily. But I'd been down the Peacock a couple of times for sparring. I spoke to Martin about like when the next one was going to be, and things like that. And there was nothing set in stone or anything like that. And then he messaged me, and then give me a call and was like, "There's a fight in June I think it was at the York Hall that never ended up materialising." And I said, "Yeah, that was a decent fight as well. That was against another unbeaten prospect."
Yeah,
but I said yeah to it, but it never ended up materialising. But on the same phone call, he said, and also there's an opportunity to box in Texas in October. And I said, yeah, 100%. And then from that conversation, there was no looking back. It was, do you want to box in America? Give me the details. And I said, yeah, no worries. And then I ended up not boxing between the Lee Hallett and that one. And then, so I had about, I think it was something like 18 weeks notice.
Yeah,
so just
plenty of time to get into camp and get
weeks of gearing up towards it, and then flew out to America. And like I said earlier, I didn't have a mad extensive like amateur career where I was boxing for England or GB traveling. So I'd never boxed abroad. So I was going to take it at both hands. And October we went over to America, and it was unbelievable.
Is the American style of is the American whole thing around? Obviously, you've been to a few British shows, you've done a few British shows, you know what it's like here in the UK. Is it different being in America? Are there different rules? Are there different regulations? Are there different ways they treat you in this sort of in the lead up to the fight? I mean, the fight's a fight at the end of the day. Boxing's boxing, but is this a comparison you could draw between them?
So there might be in like certain areas, obviously, like when you go to like Vegas and stuff, like places like that will probably have their own specific things where you can be like, yeah, that's a Vegas fight night. But to be honest with you, where we went out to Texas, the people out there were really nice. Dennis had a really good relationship with the promoter out there, that Julio Martinez. when we arrived, we were, if anything, like for the full week, and this is nothing on the treatment we get over here because we get good treatment over here. But we arrived at Brownsville Airport to like a mariachi band because it was right on the border of Mexico. We arrived to like a mariachi band. We was out to like the Airbnbs and had a press conference and day before weigh-in and a ceremonial weigh-in. One thing I did is different though, that like I didn't know at the time, and a lot of people didn't know. When we got out there, we had medicals like out there on the week, so it was a lot of like running about for that. That is one of the, even though it's like seems like something minor, it's one of the only, it is one of the different things that I could tell from an American fight week to an English fight week. Like I had a blood test on like the Tuesday, and we was having like eye tests and stuff on like the Wednesday.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's like I think a lot was built on like the American style and the way they box and stuff. But I think through like the years and like social media and stuff, I think there isn't as much of a English style to American style as there was before. Like I think back in the day, like there was a clear difference between the UK and like European style to the American style. But I think now with social media and seeing the way that everyone knows how everyone trains, like it was all just the same. When we got there, it was just a fight.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I can imagine mishmashing as well. You took on a chap called Roberto Castro, sorry, stopping him in the third. Was it the third or the fourth?
Yeah, third round.
He was quite a young prospect, realistically. He was, 3, 4, or 5 fights into his career. Good win record over losses. I think he was 2-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, two, yeah.
So how did he fare? How did you feel? You know, your bout. I watched your bout from back here in the UK. I thought, you know, it was going your way anyway from the beginning.
Yeah,
but, you know, was there a difference in sort of, you know, respect? Was there the respect? Obviously, was there respect on either side? And, you know, I'm just trying to see if there was any differences between, you know, our boxes and their boxes.
Yeah, so I know this is quite stereotypical, but the Americans can talk a little bit, can't they? And when we was over there, we had the press conference, and a few of their fellas were like talking a little bit and talking a very good game. And then when on our press conference, I got up and said about how like I was excited, and he got up and said, "Oh, I'm ready to chop you down," and like started get. To be fair, since the fight, he's been nothing but respectful, and after the fight, but beforehand, he was trying to be the "you're on my turf" sort of fella, and try and get into my head that way. And then at the weigh-in and that, he was trying to like be a bit like, I don't know, be a bit smiley and seemed a bit brash a little bit.
Trying to prove himself up there.
But in terms of comparisons, I think he was actually from a place that was only 20 minutes around the corner.
Okay.
And when we walked in the venue, there was loads of support for him, all with his Roberto Castro t-shirts on and things like that. I think in terms of like you say, with his win record, he had a winning record. He was young, like I say. He looks at himself. He looks at himself as like a prospect himself, and he didn't just turn up like a journeyman over here with like no one, just their cut man or whatever. He had like loads of support in the crowd. When his name was announced, the whole place erupted. So he weren't there to roll over. But I think in terms of the actual fight, that then played into my hands because he was coming to win, which meant he left more gaps and more holes in his defence. And that's when I was able to get the stoppage.
That's where you're able to pick his spots and weave and dive and get in there and get everything and get the job done. So stoppage in the third, as you said. Flying back from America, we're back here in the UK, another one in the York Hall, and then another transatlantic challenge set up for you, Chelsea. This one, Chelsea Football Stadium, Stamford Bridge. Yeah.
So when we was out, this was sort of, even though I had one in between, this was sort of like foreseen beforehand, because when we was out in America, they was talking about we'll get another one over here and then we'll get one out there. So like I knew that going forward there was a lot of talk around like Dennis and Spencer, who are two good blokes, that this was going to be like an ongoing thing. And I think that added a little bit more pressure, but in a good way, because I was like, right, so if I get a good performance and a good win here, and they need someone to like represent Team UK again, or they want someone to box for them, a good performance in the first one is going to hold you in good stead for the second one, and so on and so forth. So then, like you said, I then had another one at the York Hall, and then I think it was like around. I think as I got out of the ring, he said like John and Dennis were there, John Trethaway and Dennis Hobson were there, and they said like we've got another one coming up, like you can be on that one, and then it was just a matter of time, like that was sort of said, and then after Christmas went by, and then it was that's when like the sort of not offer, but that's when the offer came in of do you want to box on this show against an American over here at Stamford Bridge, and again open arms, 100%.
And then so opportunity grabbed it with both hands, and away we went with it, I guess, then from your management side of it as well. That was April this year, 2025.
Yeah, the 4th. That was only about, I think it works out about 8 weeks ago.
Does it?
8 weeks.
Time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, 8 weeks tomorrow, because obviously I've got one coming up, but there's only 9 weeks apart from them. So 8 weeks tomorrow it was. April the 4th at Stamford Bridge was the second clash. Yeah,
so again, you went up against Devante Jones. Again, quite a good strong record coming into that one. He was 13 bouts, 13 to 3 victories, 1 or 2 knockouts in there as well. That didn't seem to matter much with whatever record he came in with, because you stopped him in the first.
Yeah. So he'd had 16, he was 13 and 3, and he'd had 6 knockouts. And obviously at the time I'd only had 5 fights, so he'd had more knockouts than. And I had an opponent. I had an opponent before him, Joseph Abudi it was.
Yeah.
And he was 7-0. Sorry, he was 7-0, and we said yes to that. We had a little look at that, and then he took an opportunity elsewhere. And then we still had plenty of time, but we was then offered Devante Jones, and it was a case of like he had a good record. When I looked, it was a long while before, because he'd been a pro like a lot of years, but he was a good amateur as well. He got to like a Golden Glove semi-finals, which like if you know American boxing, you know that's good going. Yeah. And he was in the Golden Glove semi-finals only 1 or 2 years after I'd started boxing, so he'd been around a long time, and like I say, it was getting towards like it wasn't short notice, but it was getting towards the point like that's sort of, if I'm not boxing him, I probably won't be boxing on it. And he had a good record, and we watched, and he had some good wins, and he looked a good kid, but we watched it and was like, we can still box him, and believe we'd get the better of him. And then, like you say, I ended up stopping him in the first round. But as he came over, like you say, with him, we had press conference and things like that. And like I was just saying there, but he kept talking about his experience and how he's been in places where I've not. And on paper, he had. But I think that's where I've sort of like been able to sort of make a statement without having to. I'm not one for like calling out loads of people or going onto social media and talking loads of rubbish. But I think with a win like that, I was able to sort of like turn people's heads without having to talk rubbish to do so.
Yeah, I mean, it was described as a brutal knockout in the first round over Devante Jones, and watching it back again, it is, you seem, again, you must have. There obviously wasn't any trepidation in the fact that he was that experienced, he was that big, big thing. He had all those levels that you've just described. For you, it was kind of just another day in the office. I've got something to do, and I've got something to prove. Was that what you kind of went in with, that mentality? I'm going to prove myself here.
Yeah. Well, I knew similar to the first transatlantic clash. I knew that opportunities can arise from it, and you've just got to. Like, I knew that he'd had experience, and to be honest with you, I know, like I should have done, because on paper this was the case. I thought it was going to be my hardest fight yet, so I prepared as if it was going to be, and I wanted to make a bit of a statement, but I also knew it was going to be my hardest, believed that it was going to be my hardest fight. So, like I say, went in thinking it was going to be a hard fight, but was prepared to sort of like make a bit of a statement, and then. Ended up getting the result.
Well, this brings us pretty much up to date. Like you said, you've got another one in the bank ready to go, potentially. Obviously, make sure nothing else happens, touch wood and all that stuff. That, again, will set you in good standing. But I'm going to guess that where you're saying right now, you're 6-0, hopefully 7-0 after July. Is it July or June? Sorry.
No, June. It's only next week. Next Saturday.
Next week. There you go. So next week out and about, and then 7-0. What's the plan for you, Arnie? What's the plan?
So my next fight is next Saturday. but it's actually a 10-rounder against another unbeaten fighter for the vacant Commonwealth Youth title. Who, I'm boxing cricket Syed Shear, I think it is, but Ali Shah is what he goes by. Boxing Ali Shah over 10 rounds for a Commonwealth Youth title. So yeah, pick that bet up, which with my first belt as a pro, and then hopefully see what doors open from that. Either something will come from that, or we was actually offered this fight. Obviously, I didn't know at the time because you've got all eyes on the prize. But we was offered this fight on the morning of the fight with Devontae Jones, and I'm pretty sure the text, that I didn't see it, was to my manager, but I'm pretty sure the text read something like, "If all goes well tonight, can Arnie box on June the 7th for the vacant for that title?" And obviously, all went well. So obviously, some opportunities might come from me winning this belt, but also there was no opportunities that was able to be formed from that knockout because a fight was already in the pipeline, sort of thing. So I don't know if people can then look back on that knockout and be like, "Hang on a minute, we no that knockout didn't make loads and loads of noise because he was straight on to the next one." So hopefully, I've got that knockout in the locker. I'll also have a 10 rounds under my belt and my first professional title, and it should be like I said, I've got nothing actually in the pipeline or lined up because I can't be looking past an unbeaten fighter over 10 rounds. But yeah, it should be exciting stuff after that, because I'll have 10 rounds under my belt, my first professional title, and be 7-0. Yeah, flying.
It does seem like the boxing gods are looking after you, because, like you said, although you say that that knockout, it may not have made a noise and brought the fight that we've got next, but I'm sure it's echoing down the hallway to the likes of other promoters and other people who are paying attention now because they've seen it and they've heard it and they've already seen that you've already got the fights line up. So maybe the boxing gods are looking and smiling on you. So that's something to be happy about.
Yeah. Like I say,
particularly when we speak to some boxers who are struggling and not getting the fights and not getting the offer things. So it seems to me you've got everything in the management side of it seems to have everything working well for you, and everything seems to be coming up roses at the moment. So long may that continue as well. I mean, is there, obviously, this is Commonwealth Silver
youth
championship, but I mean, is there a belt that you think, actually, this is where I'd like to get the career? I'm going to guess, whatever you would, what sort of pathway you see it going, or isn't there a path, or is it just whatever happens, whatever comes, whatever the gods shine on you?
Well, I sort of turning over. Obviously, like the belt I've always wanted, and the belt that I still want to this day, which is my sort of goal and like long-term goal, is I want to be a British champion. I think a lot of people say that, but obviously everyone wants to be a world champion. But I believe I will win a British title, and that is the aim. And yeah, I think I will win a British title, and I will get there. Obviously, I've then got aspirations for like beyond that. But my goal is a British title. But as for like short term or what could be after this one, I sort of, when you turn over, you see like Southern Area champions and English champions and British champions. But with the like start to my pro career that I've had, I've learned to sort of not plan too short term because I didn't know about the American trip. And then if I'd have had a plan in my head, that would have thrown my plan off. And then when I come back from the American trip, I didn't know about Stamford Bridge. I didn't know about the second clash. So again, if I'd have had a plan, I want to do this, I want to do that, that'd have then thrown that off. So I'm sort of just playing it by ear and going with the flow.
Riding the waves, as they say, in the surf. Just catching the waves as they come in.
With my amateur career and the fact I didn't have loads of amazing accolades, I'm sort of living the dream. Like, even though I'm good enough to be here and I deserve to be here and I've worked hard to be here, I'm living the dream, because if you looked at my amateur career, I shouldn't be here. In terms of like, I shouldn't be where I'm at if you base solely off my amateur career.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm living the dream, and I'll take it as it comes. I've got a good team around me, and I truly believe that, with Gareth Bayford, my trainer, and Martin Bowers, my manager. So whatever they say, if they think that's the next step. So like I said, I haven't really got, there's titles out there that everyone would like to win, things like Southern Area, English, British, but if whatever they come up with my next step, if they turn around and say, like, typically there's small hall titles like Southern Area aren't on big promoter shows, and if they turn around and there's a Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn or knocking on the door and an opportunity to get on their show, but it means missing certain titles, then we be it. Or I sort of leave whatever they think's best. I'm more than happy to get the ball rolling.
Some people like the progression. That's why I asked the question. Some people, like you said, I think you're happy to ride the waves. What comes your way, what naturally happens with the game, and what naturally presents itself. You're happy to step up. We can see that from the first 6 fights that you've already had are in the bank. All of them have been sort of, as you say, come and you've taken them in your stride. And I think that's really a really positive thing to take forward, because I think that's going to help you with everything going forward as well. Excellent. And after boxing, if you get to and you've done everything that you want to do, retirement, maybe you're going to look at going back to helping out the amateurs like you've started already doing. Or you're going to look to do something else.
To be honest with you, I know this is quite cliche because I didn't have bad grades in school. I never got kicked out and things like that. So, so I probably do have other options. But as cliche as this sounds, boxing is all I really care about and all I really know. Like. That properly know, do you know what I mean? I left school sixth form during COVID times and then went worked straight into the boxing gym. So I work in the boxing gym now, and that's all I really like. That's all I really know. So I think I'll be one of those fighters that when I'm out of the sport, I won't be out of the sport. When I stop
You'll
boxing,
still be floating around the corners of.
I like the idea of maybe doing some like presenting or some like commentary work, but I know obviously a lot of the commentators get the jobs through their boxing accolades, so I've got to do my job as a fighter, and then if I make a big enough name for myself, then hopefully I could maybe go down that alleyway, or like you say, train fighters that are coming up.
But there's always opportunities. I mean, I know Spencer Oliver will, he always said that he wanted to get into it after his issues with boxing, but he pursued it and he got through, and he started off doing some small hole stuff, and then he's got into thing, and then he got into TalkSport. He's one of the ones that he call on for a lot of stuff. Barry Jones is the same. They all come through the ranks, like you said, and they're at top levels in the sport, traveling the world, commentating on boxing. Which
exactly. Barry, I like Barry as a commentator. He's a good commentator.
He's a nice guy as well. We like Barry for that. We have a little closing tradition on the podcast, which is kind of the either-or situation. So it's whatever you prefer, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say. So, Arnie, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Arnie Dawson, here we go. Southpaw or orthodox?
Orthodox.
Body shots or headshots?
Body shots.
Train alone or with a partner?
Train alone.
Early bird, night owl?
Early bird.
Heavy bag, speed bag?
Heavy bag.
Boxing gym or outdoor training?
Boxing gym.
Short and powerful punches or long and technical?
Long and technical.
Fight dirty or fight clean?
Fight clean.
Quiet crowd or loud atmosphere?
Loud atmosphere.
Loud crowd, quiet atmosphere.
Loud crowd. Yeah.
Loud crowd. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, so I guess that one. Quick knockout or strategic win?
I'd probably go strategic win, believe it or not.
That doesn't surprise me because of your records. Okay, hypothetical question. This is never going to happen the way things are going at the moment, unless, and if I read what I read was right, then it could be in the works. But AJ or Fury?
I think heart says AJ because I've always, I was in that era of he was the man when I was sort of growing up into boxing, and I was at Joshua Klitschko and things like that. But I think head says Fury if it does happen. So I go with Fury as for the win. Yeah,
Fury for the win. I always thought there was a bit of a north and south divide on this question, but over the last couple of months, it's just swung more and more to Fury, particularly after
I think I'd favour. I think I'd want Joshua, but I think if I take that head off and I just think who would win in the boxing match, I think Fury would have his number.
Fair enough. Arnie, how do people get in contact with you? How do they follow your journey? Where can they find out more about you?
So the most used thing is Instagram. So it's just Arnie26 Dawson on Instagram. That's my handle. I don't have Twitter. And it's just Instagram mainly. Arnie26 Dawson. That's where I upload all my training stuff and all my fight news and all my fight stuff. And that's the best place to find me.
And you'll also find photographs of you running in a marathon. Was it the London you did?
I've done the Landmarks half marathon. That was for Crohn's and Colitis UK charity, which is A little shout out to them. Charity quite close to our heart. My girlfriend's got Crohn's, so we ran it together for that charity, which was really good.
That's nice. Any other shout outs for your sponsors or your gym or anyone else you want to say?
Yeah, just like I say, I've only got 9 days, I think it is. So big shout out to all my sponsors. You'll see them on my socials. Anyway. Big shout out to Gareth at Seconds Out Gym, my trainer, Martin, all the boys at the Peacock. Yeah, like I say, 9 days it is. It's good to look back at what I've done as a pro so far and my career, but all eyes on June the 7th, where I'll hopefully pick up my I will be picking up my first professional title. So yeah, all good for that one.
I look forward to it, and don't forget to tag us in anything going forward. We're always happy to give you a shout out as well, so we look forward to that. But obviously, best of luck, good luck with the rest of your camp. How's camp going?
Yeah, good mate, really good, to be honest. I'm not going to be that cliche fella, and I'm not just saying it because everyone else says it, but yeah, I couldn't ask for a better camp. I've crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and got all the best sparring I can, and ticked all the boxes. And yeah, mate, I'm ready to go. But I appreciate you having me on today, and I appreciate your time.
Mate, no worries at all. I appreciate you coming on as well. But best of luck in the next fight. Pick up that gold. Strap season's coming, baby. And let's go. Come
on, wicked, mate. Thank you very much.
Take care. Have a good evening.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. And you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Big Hype Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and really, I just want to ask you personally, if you could just send this on to a friend. Send it in their text, to their socials, to WhatsApp, whatever. However you get it to them, just get it to them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it, and I certainly will appreciate it. So thanks again for listening to the Big Hype Podcast, and thank you again for sending and sharing.